Okay, I'm a student of organic farming here in Vienna, and I'm doing research on farm succession outside the family. The reason for that is that I want to start a farm, but my parents are not farmers, so I got interested in that to do work. My love for food, I really love food, and I love good food, and I like being connected with the production of good food and producing good food in community. This community aspect has become more important to me, I think. It's less about nature now than about nature and community, or community using or living in a place and interacting with it, creating it by living. When I was on Erasmus exchange in Belgium, I also worked on a farm, and there I somehow came across an article about the Dutch BIODYNAMIC Association and how they have a program that helps young farmers get land by connecting them with biodynamic farmers who don't have successors and who are looking for people. And that was actually the first time I think I heard about extra-familial farm succession. And they also had a fund that finances, that buys the land of these farmers and just regulates the farm succession, I guess, over a long period of time, and really takes the land out of the market. And I found that idea really fascinating, so I got more into it, and I realized that there are several groups in Austria also working on this issue of access to land for beginning farmers. And all of them focus on organic or sustainable farming, because the idea is that if the land has already been worked organically for so many years, it would be bad to go back to conventional agriculture. So preserving the land for sustainable farming and providing opportunities for young farmers, and also valuing the work of previous generations.
Here's the kind of thing that happened in Minnesota. You have a farmer who has taken very good care of his land and cares about it. That farmer becomes too old to farm, and the kids are not interested in taking over the farm. And there are around about a lot of large operations that will not take this kind of care of the land, that will simplify it into monoculture of various kinds. And so the kids say, look, we're millionaires. This land is worth millions of dollars to these monoculture people, and we can live very well on that amount of money. And the father or mother may resist for a while and say, but we'll lose what we care about. But then they get old and the price keeps going up. Yeah. Now, one way that gets blocked in the United States, in Minnesota anyhow, is that the owners of a farm can put it into a special kind of trust, such that certain uses are excluded. And that is in perpetuity. It's just then a part of how the farm is sold from then on, that it will never be used in certain ways. That makes it much less valuable, but it makes it possible for a CSA or a young farmer to take it over and maintain it on some principles. Now that's a kind of story I'm familiar in. Is it similar here? Is this the story you run into in Austria also?
Yes, it is. I guess it's very similar as in the United States, the rising age of the farming population and the rising land prices. Also combined with farming not being such an attractive job, or not seen as such a job worth pursuing, that makes it so difficult. And of course a very strong policy also of having to grow or having to quit. That is a very strong trend in Europe, I would say. And it is difficult for small farmers associations and like to really put their foot in the door somewhere. And I think it's a bit like a time bomb, actually. It's not gonna be able to, the system is not gonna be able to go on like this much longer, because the farmers are gonna retire in the next 10 years, and in some regions. And it's clear that it's not possible to work the land sustainably if you're gonna just distribute it among the remaining farmers and have bigger farms. And yeah, I think that's why we need really more support, or more structures, also of advisory services, or places for young people to come in, get information, get help, and get connected with places where there are farmers who would like to give their farm to someone else rather than to the neighbors who are already waiting to buy it. I'm doing my thesis now on looking at initiatives in Western Europe that enable these processes of extrafamilial farm succession or access to land. There are a lot of different approaches, and there's very little research about them. Or there is research on the specific approaches, or on farm succession in general, and the whole intergenerational aspects and so on, the sociological side. But there is less on these initiatives, because they're a rather recent phenomenon in many cases. And I know of, as I said, of several groups that are trying to do something like that, and they also encouraged students to do research on these things, because it would help them to get data from other initiatives that are already established. There's also the European Network on Access to Land. They also, the main thing that they agreed on was the big lack of data on what they're actually, what they're doing, and the need for more research. And so my focus is to look at who are the actors in this field, or who are the initiatives that are already there, and who are the organizations that are trying to establish new ones. How are they interacting, and how are their approaches different or similar? Because of course there are a lot of regional and national differences in policies and legal frameworks and things like that, also cultural framework. And I've learned that there are really a lot of different approaches to access on land. There are a lot of things that can be done, and that has made me very hopeful, or very optimistic about my future in farming, but about also more generally young people getting into farming. And I think there's a lot that we can do, or that can be done. For example, in France, There's an organization that works on different levels. It on the one hand it works financially in that it buys farms and makes them available, like the Dutch project that I've mentioned. But it also goes with the people who are starting new farms or taking over farms through the whole process, which I think is very important. It's an advisory service actually, and it also runs, or it administers the farms that it has bought and keeps helping or enabling people to also improve it sustainability wise, and to work on how they produce. And in Germany, for example, there is a whole different or the approach is to focus on linking farmers who are looking for a successor and young people looking for a farm, making the matches, but also going through the whole process and just being a place to go to and get information for people who are thinking about this for the first time, making the subject more well known, because I think that's a very big issue in Austria also, that the old or the quitting farmers need to hear about this possibility, because it's maybe not something they would consider just by themselves, and once it is more common or more popular to have extra familial farm succession, that it would also work for more people, or people would trust it more, because they would know people who have done it and so on. So those are two approaches, and in Austria the groups that I know of are more local initiatives that are about a specific farm that they want to buy, or that they want to have a project with, and they are looking for ways of funding it, or for ways of taking the land out of the market, and having like a pilot project and then creating more projects with the same strategy. I think it's really not, it's not about the lack of people who want to go into farming. It's just that it's so difficult. I know that a lot of my university colleagues from BOKU are really interested in starting their own farms, and I know it myself, you don't know where to start about it. It's where do you go? The whole advisory services and so on, or even my study courses are actually designed for people who come from farms, or who already know how to take over a farm. There are discussions now, it's possible that in the next year there will be a group organizing a course on farm startups at my university for the first time in 2015. And I think it's great that that's happening, but it could have happened much earlier maybe. Or it's when I started studying, I was a bit shy about it, because I knew that most people in my course would probably be people who come from farms and who know a lot more about it than I do. And that is the case, but I think about maybe 40%, maybe 50% are people like me who are new to the subject, but very interested in working organically and so on. And maybe 2 years ago there was a bachelor project at my university where a group of people interviewed students in the agricultural courses or in the agricultural studies about their background and their plans in farming or in other jobs. And it turned out that there is a lot of people who are very interested or certain even that they want to start a farm, but most of them do not have a farm to take over. And at the same time, there are a lot of people also studying agriculture who are not sure that they will take over their family farm, but they would have one. So even at my university, I can see that both sides are represented. There are connections with a lot of farmers who don't have successors or maybe don't have successors, and there are a lot of people who are interested in taking over these farms. I really think it's more about providing support and information on how to do this, and also things like the creating enough pressure or enough drive for these ideas to actually become more established and and supported also on a larger scale. Subsidy systems for young farmers, for farm startups, are really lacking. It's more about there is more support for big investments and building a new stable and stuff like that than for young people who maybe want to buy a farm or things like that. It's just that the support structures are lacking. The way that I think there are solutions. I'm also aware that there are a lot of obstacles, and I think that's why it's so important to get more into the subject and to do more research on it, because I think it does need a lot of public support and change in policies, and that's not going to happen unless people ask for it or unless people it is still a long way to go, but the solutions or the possible solutions are there.